Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I don't want to waste too much time with all the fluff and filler and my rambling, so I just want to jump right into it. Now this video has been a long time coming. It's been something I've been working on for well over a year, and I would say it's about 99% done the way I want it. I'm leaving that 1% room for potential changes, which I'll talk about. But as it is right now, it's about 99% complete. And again, it's just been a long time coming. There was a lot of issues that I had with the build. However, I think we are in good shape now. So I'm going to start from the front, work my way to the rear, talk about, just let you know what the components are, and then I'll talk a little bit about everything that went into the build process leading up until this point where it's running, and then I'll show you one group or one target with a few different loadouts, and then my overall thoughts on it. So to jump right into it, this is my 12.5 mini Recce concept build. The build itself was tailored to my specific needs based on my location. So I've talked about in other videos, you go 5 minutes north, 5 minutes south, it's all rural, farmlands, rolling hills, blah blah blah. You go 5 minutes east, it's all basically forest. And then you go 5 minutes west and you're in a city, a smaller city. Then beyond that city, it's all either suburban or rural, and then it's back to a smaller city, and then it really does become rural for a big portion of the state there. So I wanted something that would be adequate in shorter spaces, so more confined CQB like spaces, but could also be effective out to 500 yards, not only in its lethality or its ability to put rounds on target, but also its ability to PID out to 500 yards. So that's what was the basis for this build. So that being said, let's jump right into the parts, and I'll go down the list. So up front is an AAC 3-prong flash hider, which sports the 51 tooth ratchet system right here. It's attached to a Triarch Systems Track 2.0 12.5 inch barrel that is a mid-length gas system. The gas block itself is a Superlative Arms adjustable gas block to be used on a .750 gas block journal. The gas tube itself is a WMD mid-length gas tube, melanated. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. There it is, melanated. And then if I can get a good shot, maybe if I flip it, you can see a little bit of the gas block there. Anyway, that's the gas tube. Housing all of this is this rail here. Now this rail is, I've seen it from a few other companies, but this one in particular is from B King's Firearms. It's their Mod 1 11-inch handguard. Interesting thing about 12.5 barrels is there's not a bunch of companies that make these or make rails that are suitable for it. I originally was going to go Midwest Industries, but I was really tight on funds and I had a budget I wanted to meet, so I went this route. And then there's more into this. I don't want to go down the road of that. I'll just say that initially I got a build kit, an upper parts kit, lower parts kit, and the rail all from B King's Firearms, and I jettisoned everything else but the rail because everything else was complete trash. And even the rail I had to go ahead and modify so that it would work correctly, but it was a very minimal modification. And moving on, the upper is a Aero Precision M4E1 stripped upper. The lower is an Aero Precision M4E1 stripped lower. In the upper, the BCG is also from Aero Precision. It is their M16 BCG manganese phosphate coated with their bolt, which is MPI and HPT. So HPT stands for high pressure tested. MPI stands for magnetic particle inspection or inspected. I did talk to Aero Precision about this via email, and they said that on these particular bolts, or the BCGs, they're all MPI'd, but they're batch HPT. Typically, when they're batch HPT, from my experience, you typically won't see HPT on the bolt unless that particular bolt was used in the high pressure testing. So mine says MPI and HPT. I did not confirm them with this. I don't know how they could even test or look back and check it without taking some time. But mine does say HPT MPI, so I can only assume that on this BCG, the bolt itself is MPI HPT. So the whole bolt carrier group is mil spec. Carpenter 158 steel for the bolt carrier, for the bolt itself, 8620 for the bolt carrier, chrome line, grade 8 bolts, staked, whole 9 yards, and it's held up so far. Let's see. The upper parts kit is also from Aero Precision. I've used a lot of their stuff in the past, and I've always had great success with it. And to wrap up the upper, the charging handle, let's see if that'll show it. See it right there. That is from Griffin Armament. That's from Griffin Armament, and it's their snatch, or they call it snatch. It's suppressor normalized ambi charging handle. So this is specifically to help with suppressive use. So it has a port here on the side that vents out, and then it's got a gas busting back on the end there so that you can prevent gas to the face. For the lower itself, I've also utilized an Aero Precision lower parts kit without the pistol grip or the fire control group. The fire control group is from Geisley. It's their G2S. Interestingly enough, one of my friends, Stumpy, shout out to him, he is not a fan of two-stage triggers on AR-15s or AR platforms. I am. He had this trigger, and I didn't have one set for this, so I ended up getting a PSA 3.5 pound single stage trigger, which he does like, and just making it even swap, so it worked out in the end for both of us. The pistol grip here is a BCM Mod 1 grip. I think BCM is my absolute favorite pistol grip. They fit really snug onto the lower receiver, and the grip is got a great texture but not too much, and the grip angle is perfect for me. I think it's one of the most ergonomic pistol grips. Moving on back here is the Aero Precision buffer tube kit. Now this Aero Precision buffer tube kit came with a carbine spring and an H2 buffer, which I had to swap out and then put back in, and it was a little bit of going back and forth because of the operating system, but that is what's in there. That's not exactly what's in there. So the H2 buffer is in there, but the spring is a Springco Blue enhanced spring. And then to wrap it up for the initial parts of the base build is an SBA 3 brace. As far as all the other components, moving up front here, I have a white light. This is a Streamlight ProTac Rail Mount 1, 625 lumens with 22,000 candela, so it's got a high output. Very good light, very inexpensive, and they just hold up. Plus, Streamlight has phenomenal customer service. Right here is a Zenico Purst 4. It's an illuminator only, or an IR laser only. So, actually, backtrack. It's a red illuminated IR laser only. It does not come with an illuminator like some other versions of this. However, to circumvent having to buy a bigger one or more expensive one, Streamlight sells IR filters for their lights. I am not a fan of it for outdoor use. It's completely useless, but if you're working indoors where it's very, very dark, the illuminator or the IR cover, which I don't have out here, but the IR filter for the Streamlight lights work phenomenally well. Indoor use only, and I'll stress that, indoor use only. Outdoors, you won't even notice the difference. Moving on back, for the purse, I do run their their pressure pad. It's small. I do like the fact that it has this. I forget what the hell I call it, but it adjusts the brightness on the fly, so I could turn it either which way, and it'll adjust the brightness from low to high. And then I have this little button if I have to bring in my hand to hit it here, but I also have options to run here and here. And up here, that is for visible. This is for IR. Continuing on back is the main sighting system, which is a Primary Arms ACSS Raptor 1:8 first focal plane, and it's their SLX line. I've had this for a few years now. I got it when it first dropped, and it's held up very, very well. No complaints whatsoever. It's on an ADM mount, so let me turn this over. So you can see this is an 80E mount. I got this off of Amazon. Basically, this was what Primary Arms was originally going to go with for their GLX line years ago and never went into fruition. However, their new GLX line kind of looks almost identical to this. So I don't know if they copied or got inspiration from this design. However, I have 3 of these on 3 different rifles, and they've all been rock solid. And to round out my backup sights are, as always, the Magpul M-Bus Pro backup iron sights, which are my favorite, and they're really good. Yeah, so that's everything going into it. I didn't want to do something that was like a super expensive build, but not something really, really cheap. I wanted something in the middle that would be really good for hard use, but wasn't going to break the bank. Keep it as close to mil spec as possible, even though mil spec can be expensive at times. So a little bit of the history behind this build. It did not look anything like this on its original build, aside from the barrel and the handguard. For the base build, I did, again, to reiterate, I went through BeatKings Firearms. I got their upper, lower, and handrail kit, and when it showed up, there was blemishes on it, different color upper and lower, as far as like it looked like one was Cerakoted black and the other one was anodized black. Then the rail had issues making contact with the gas block, and I had to Dremel the inside a bit just to give it room so that it wouldn't make contact while it was firing or at all. I eventually scrapped the upper and lower with the upper and lower parts kits because they were complete trash too. And then I ended up going through Air Precision because I had already spent so much money on all that other stuff. I couldn't go any other way. However, I will say I've dealt with Air Precision's M4E1 upper and lowers before. I think they're a phenomenal buy for the price. They are forged and not billet, even though they look billet. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the billet aesthetics with the forged strength, and they work out great. And I knew that this was going to be eventually suppressed because around that time that I started this build, I had submitted my paperwork for both my suppressor and my SBR. It took 14 months to get my my can back, and this is where it's at. So I will say the barrel track shoots nice, but I had a ton of issues with the track barrel. The barrel itself looked great on the inside. However, over time I found that the gas port was a little bit undersized, and then there was a burr on the one of the lugs in the barrel, in the chamber, And I did find that burr later on, but prior to finding that, I did speak with Treyarch. We went back and forth. They were completely receptive. However, when it was all said and done, after a few email exchanges and me going through a variety of diagnostic processes, they wanted me to send everything in for my build to them, everything that I used for my diagnostics process, and then they wanted me to send it in on my own dime on top of sending it in with 40 rounds so that they can diagnose it and confirm repair with the ammo that I was sending in, which I thought was completely unacceptable that it was a new one. So I told them thanks, but I will go ahead and I will figure this out myself. I'm not doing that, and I don't think that it was appropriate that they asked me to do that. So I got a bore cam, and I started going down the bore. Eventually I found the burr on the lug for the chamber, and I was able to fix that up. I also opened up the gas block. I think it was like a .074 or .073, something like that. It was undersized. And then I opened it up to .082, which is bigger than what they call for. They call for a .076. Now, during the diagnostic process, I ran every ammo that I had from True 5.56 XM193 ammo to Tula 55 grain, and it all did the same thing. It was always short stroking or not picking up the other round, or I wouldn't eject the case. And I think it definitely was a combination of the smaller gas port and the burr slowing down the cyclic rate of the BCG. So I had different gas tube, different gas block. I bought all new stuff just to see if that was the case. I tore other rifles apart to put the barrel on it and try it. That didn't resolve anything. I tried different bulk carrier groups, from a regular, basic PSA bulk carrier group all the way up to an LWRC and BCM bulk carrier group. I tried different lowers, different triggers, thinking that maybe, a decreased hammer spring would create less drag on the bottom of the bolt, and maybe that was what was causing an issue, and nothing remedied it. All that had been relayed to Treyarch, and had I gone through with what Treyarch wanted me to do, I would have had to deadline 3 of my rifles, plus all that on top of my own money. And then they said that they would send me back a functional rifle, but I didn't want them to build a rifle. I wanted to build a rifle myself, or in this case, a pistol variation. So that was a lot of the issues that I went through, and it took months and months to truly narrow down and find out what the culprit was and then remedy it. I will say that it does shoot really nice, and this 1:8 is a perfect fit for this application. So let me show you what it shoots. Now, some days are better than others, but I'll show you what this shoots. So here is my target. So right here is PMC X-Tac XM193. That's shooting 1.34 inch group, and it was very consistent around that 1.2, 1.3 inch group. Fiocchi 55 grain 223, 1.89. This pretty much hovered between 1.5 inches sometimes, but mostly around a 2 inch, which is pretty common for Fiocchi. I haven't had Fiocchi really shoot anything close to a minute out of any of my stuff. I will say this one here, Freedom Munitions, they're 55 grains here, Blitz King 223 loading. That shoots very consistently, and I'm always getting MOA or better. So my first round I pulled, and then I got settled and shot my next 4 all up here, so you can clearly tell that it was a pull. Obviously with a pull it's over a minute, but having all these four pretty consistent, it's 0.817. Up here is Australian Defense or Australian Outback. It goes by ADI now, but that's their 55 grain Sierra Blitz King. That one, at times, depending on the lot, can be consistent. So that one's usually giving me about a minute or just under. This one here is 0.985, and then ADI 69 grain, which never shoots good out of anything, is over 2 inches at 2.116. So depending on the type of day I'm having, depending on the type of ammunition, it is very accurate, especially as a 12.5 with 55 grains. I did chrono it with the suppressor and everything. It is with 55 grain loads, it is hovering right around 2,800 feet per second, a little over 28, so like 2850-ish. On average, it was about 2850, pretty consistently through 55 grain loads, unless it was some specialized load. So that is very good. I'll take 1.2 MOA all day long. You know, according to the military, with a Mark 12, they were only requiring it to be 1.2 MOA accuracy. You know, obviously getting below that, but that was the standard. 1.2 will get you out to distance just fine. And for 500 yards, 1.2, between 1 and 1.2 is going to be absolutely fine. That is still going to give me within 10 inches out to 500. So, what are my overall thoughts on it? So initially, I was completely frustrated with this build, so much so that I was ready to sell it. Since then, since I got everything squared away, even before I got my can, it has quickly become my favorite build. That being said, there are some changes that I'm looking to make going forward. One will be this break. Now, I do have another break because this was my intention going into this, knowing the history of AAC, and that is a a Griffin Armament. I'm trying to remember. It's a Griffin Armament 2.25 inch flash suppressor. So it's a 3-prong flash suppressor that utilizes Griffin Armament's taper lock mounting system. So the problem with AAC and why AAC had stopped doing a 51 tooth and moved to the 51 TV, I think it is, which is a tapered in front with the ratcheting system in the back. This was the problem people were having. So you can never get it to lock up tight. So right here, I don't know if that's coming up, but if I wiggle it, you might be able to hear. Now, there you go. So you get a lot of wobble, and then you get quite a bit of rotational turn. So I did reach out to AAC. Any can made before November 2021, when they took over, no longer will be under their limited lifetime warranty. That is because in the buyout with the bankruptcy agreement, there was something going on with the locking system, and I guess Remington Corp retained all that, and they weren't allowed to get that stuff. So now all their new cans are coming with a 1 3/8 TPI Omega, which is pretty standard on most of them. I think 1 3/8 is a little bit over. I think it's 1 3.75 TPI, I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. I'll annotate it here in the video. But they're moving to that so that you can use their adapters, which they're working on, or you could do direct thread or use a different mounting module. Trying to think. So Also speaking with them, they are working on an upgrade or a modification program. So if you are an AAC can owner that's before that, you can send it in and have the new system installed so that you can use whatever module you want to use. But that is not up and running. Me, I'm a very impatient person, and when I want to get something done, I want to get it done now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. So I found a company by the name of Echo Machine and Fabrication, and they will do the same thing. They will cut off the old mounting system, and then they will TIG weld in the 1 and 3.75 TPI, 1 and 3/8 by whatever TPI Omega module, so that it can go to any mounting module for any Omega mountable system or for suppressor. So I don't know what the turnaround is, but after I'm done with this video, I am going to email them and go through with the process. Now, as far as reliability goes, how has it been? Well, the gun itself has about 1,000 rounds on it, but suppressed only has about 400 rounds on it. And that primarily came from zeroing with the can to going to a two-man team tactics class this past weekend. Now, that was supposed to be with me and my wife. We did go. However, my wife had to drop out of the class halfway through the first day because of a medical issue, and I ran the rest of that day and half of the next day with my can before having to leave because of my wife's medical condition. But not one single stoppage. I was hoping, I ran it dry. I was hoping that it would start malfunctioning to see where it would be, and it didn't. Granted, I understand that 400 rounds is not a lot. However, that's only 400 rounds suppressed. I have about 1,000 on the gun, and since those corrections have been made, it's ran like a top. And I tell you what, with the Superlative Arms gas block, the H2 buffer with the Springco enhanced spring, this thing shoots so soft, so smooth, and because of how it's timed and running the Superlative Arms bleed off, it's not blowing any gas back in my face. Every now and again, if I do high rates of fire in a short period of time, I may get a little bit of puffing out of here, but I'm not getting anything back to the face, and that is awesome, because that is pretty common with suppressors, and that's why you either go with a tunable bulk carrier group like the Gemtech one for suppressed and unsuppressed, or going with a gas block. And being that this has restrictive and bleed off, using the bleed off allows a lot more of the excess gases to bleed off up top here. The only problem that you will find, and this is what I noticed, is that if you're running restrictive, you can set it to where it runs perfectly with and without the can. If you are running the bleed off setting, it will only run one way or the other. It'll run reliably unsuppressed, and the second you have the suppressor on it, it will tag the back of the buffer tube. Like it'll be pretty pronounced as far as the felt recoil goes, and that's because even though it is venting off up here, the hole's only so big, and it's only going to vent out so much gas at that time because the hole is so small. But if you set it for suppressor only, this thing runs incredibly well. And if you want to run it both ways, where you can run it with or without the can, you just keep it on restrictive mode, and that will work just fine. So, all that being said, I do love it. It is one of my favorite builds. This is my first build tailored for suppression, and the way that it ran like a top at this class with these high rates of fire blew me away, and I can't wait to get the can back so I can have a better mounting system and run it some more. So with that being said, go ahead and leave your comments down in the comment section below. Ask me whatever you want to ask me. Tell me that it looks like shit. I really don't care. You know, if you engage, that gives me an opportunity to engage with you, and I love the discussion. So go ahead, drop a line down below. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you in the next video.